Let us pray. Gracious and eternal God, we do indeed thank you for each new day that you give us, Lord. We thank you that we're gathered together in worship this morning to hear from you. And now hide me behind the cross. Decrease me and increase you within me, O God. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O God, our rock and our redeemer. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. 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 There once was a discontented pig that lived in a kingdom. And this pig was a farmer and a gardener who became discontented one day, and so he decided he wanted to be someone other than a gardener and a farmer. And so the pig tried his hand at several jobs. First, the pig went over to Thomas the cat to become a violin player because he heard the music coming from the window of the cat's house, and it sounded like sweet lullabies. And so the pig says, ooh, I think I want to be a violin player. So the cat says, okay, I'll show you how to play the violin. And the pig takes the violin and begins to play, and he soon finds out that his playing sounds like 1,000 bleating other pigs. And he says to the cat, ooh, I don't think I want to be a violin player. And the cat says, no, you have to stick with it. It takes some time to master it. And the pig says, no, this is a little harder than gardening and farming. I'm going to try my hand at something else. The pig goes along down the road, and he comes to the house of a dog who makes cheese. And so the pig thought to himself, this will be just the thing for me because I love to eat. And I could make delicious cheeses for myself to eat and also to sell. So he asked the dog to teach him how to make cheese. He begins to make cheese with the dog, but then gets tired from churning and turning the cheese. And so he stops. And the dog says, oh no, you can't stop doing that. The cheese will spoil under this heat, the heat of the day. And the dog says, this is too hard. This is much harder than gardening and farming. I'm going to try my hand at something else. So the pig sets off again down the road until he comes to a beekeeper, and he says, ooh, I'll try my hand at being a beekeeper. This is just what I've been looking for. I can fill my belly with delicious honey, and it doesn't look hard to gather it either. So he tries his hand at beekeeping. He puts on the beekeeping suit, and as he goes in to get the honey, he soon discovers that he is getting stung underneath of his suit. And the beekeeper says to him, in order to gather honey, you have to put up with getting stung. And the pig says, no, this is much harder than gardening and farming. And so finally the pig set off down the road, and he realized that every kind of work has something unpleasant about it. So the pig turned around and he went back home to remain a farmer and a gardener in his vegetable garden. And he weeded and he raked, singing while he worked. And it was then that there was not a more contented pig in all of the kingdom. Church, how often do we take God's blessing for granted, wishing we were somewhere else or someone else? How often do we get angry and discontented with how God blesses us and heals us? Our Luke 17 scripture lesson that John just read for us is a familiar one for many of us. Luke tells us that there were 10 lepers who came to Jesus needing to be healed from their disease. The lepers saw Jesus and they cried out, Jesus, Master, have mercy on us. Luke tells us that Jesus did not need to touch them to heal them, but simply saw them and said, go and show yourselves to the priests. And as they went, they were made physically clean. Their disease of leprosy was gone. There was only one, a Samaritan, who once he saw that he had been physically cleansed by Jesus, he turned back and praised God. Then he thanked Jesus. The Greek word for the gratitude the one leper showed is the same word we use for the Eucharist or communion. This Samaritan, this marginalized person that no one wanted to touch, no one wanted to talk to, and no one wanted to be associated with because he was a leper and a Samaritan, is the one who returns to express gratitude and praise to Jesus for how God has healed him. It was only after the Samaritan returns to Jesus, thanking him and praising God, that he receives salvation from Jesus. For Jesus says, "Get up and go on your way. Your faith has made you well." The Greek word for well here means cured or saved. Church, true gratitude to God and contentment in Christ then is not a one-time thing. We practice gratitude and contentment to God every day by doing 5 things. 1, being aware every day of how Jesus has healed us. And then 2, returning to God each day. And then 3, praising God every day. And then 4, thanking God every day, not just with our lips, but our whole lives. And then finally, going on our way, telling others what Jesus has done for us. So often, we are the 9 other lepers who, after having received physical healing by Jesus, went on their way, unaware of how Jesus healed them and not returning to Jesus to praise and thank him for what he had done. As God's people and as human beings, we're oftentimes more concerned with the physical healing and the physical blessing than being permanently saved and healed in our spirits and our souls. How often do we want physical healing and material blessing from God without learning the lesson from Jesus in our spirits that we need to be healed and whole? How often do we want to make our right now okay? How often do we want to make our right now palatable, to make our right now comfortable without being aware that our spirits and souls need so much more to live in consistent gratitude and contentment to God? The heaviness of life and ministry can be a lot for us who serve at any level of ministry, especially pastors. Over my nearly 20 years in ministry, I've had moments in my many callings as wife and mother and daughter and sister and friend and pastor where I wanted to make my right now, whatever that looked like, comfortable, and I just needed God to give me what I wanted or needed to get me through the next ministry task. How many people know what I'm talking about? To just get me through the next parent-teacher meeting, or the next family obstacle, or the next health scare, or the next. And this week was a rough one, y'all. As I observed my Friday Sabbath, as some of you know that I do, I began with worship at a local Catholic church. No, I'm not going to become Catholic. And I listened to the words of the priest as he said this: "Whatever you're going through this morning, if it's sadness, I'll share with you what I do. I focus on the Sacred Heart of Jesus and remember that there is nothing we go through that Jesus didn't already suffer. This brings me peace." I was so grateful for the priest's words because they reminded me of all the times this week when friends and colleagues and church members, directly or indirectly, helped me remember my call and mission, not as a pastor, but as a disciple of Jesus Christ, which is to show the heart of Jesus in good times and in rough times. My reflections of gratitude and contentment in my relationship with Jesus may not completely have erased the rough patches this week. But sitting in that church pew this past Friday anchored my spirit and my soul in Jesus in a deeper way than I've ever experienced before. Church, true contentment and gratitude toward God is about us being aware of everything God has done and is doing and returning to God each day, expressing our thanks and praise to God. We can't wait until things are perfect in our lives. We can't wait until the weather clears and all is sunny. We can't wait until there's enough money in our bank accounts and we're financially secure. We can't wait until our spouse acts right, our kids behave well, and make good choices, and our house is in complete order. We must express gratitude and praise to God every day because the scriptures tell us that God lives in the praises of God's people. We must express gratitude and praise to God for healing us and saving us by Christ's grace. We've got to express gratitude and praise to God even when things don't look right in our lives and we don't know if they'll ever be right. We've got to express gratitude and praise to God, especially when the laundry's not done and the doctor's reports are inconclusive and questionable. We've got to express gratitude and praise to God, especially when we're in the thick of raising children, in the thick of caring for parents and loved ones, or nearing the end of our lives. The God of all creation deserves our praise because of what Jesus Christ has done for us, how Jesus has cured us of sin and saved our souls, and how Jesus' grace flows free every day and is available to us. Friends, it could be so much worse, except for God's grace and the presence of the risen Christ in our midst. It's in our awareness of God's action in our lives. It's in us turning to God every day. It's in us praising and thanking Jesus for his saving grace, and it's in us going to tell others what Jesus has done for us that increases our faith, making us well and saving us every time. I was on Facebook this week, and I saw a Facebook post from one family that my family and I used to be friends of, and still are, just from farther away. And their names are the Blackwelders, or the Blackwelder family. And the mom and the daughter used to be in Girl Scouts, which is Ellen Claire, when they were a little younger, and this is when we were in Maryland. The Blackwelder family lived in an apartment in Maryland for 7.5 years, saving money and dreaming of buying a house one day. And it was also the mother's dream, Marie, to work in some kind of camping job associated with Girl Scouts. She just didn't know what that looked like. And so one day, Marie landed a job as a camp ranger with the Girl Scouts of Central Maryland, and she posted it on Facebook. And I think I screamed in my house. My family wasn't around. I was the only one. My dog just kind of looked at me like I was crazy. And her camp ranging job came with a house. Marie is also a type of Girl Scout liaison for Central Maryland in her role in helping Girl Scout troops to book camping trips. So it's her dream job. Just yesterday, her husband Jeb posted a project on Facebook that he had done, framing the letter F from their old apartment and the 2 apartment keys that he and his wife used to have. And he put them on either side of the letter F, and he hung the project by the door of their new house. And then Jeb posted the following words along with a picture of the finished project, and here's what he said. I am very sentimental. I love perspective. And I hate when I or people take things for granted. And I feel you never really mean to, but with your day-to-day life, everything just becomes the norm. Marie, the kids, and I lived in a 3-bedroom apartment for 7.5 years. Apartment F. These are our keys that we used the entire time. Along with the letter F, I stole off our door the last day. I put all of it in a frame and hung it by the front door of our new home. And I showed the kids, and talked to them about why I did it. I told them that this is a reminder every single day to be thankful for our home and Mommy's job, to be thankful for the life that we have. Never take this for granted, and to no matter what, remember where you come from. Every day that we live and move and have our being, church, in God, let's always remember who has saved us and is saving us now and forever saves us. Jesus Christ, the risen one. This week, I challenge us to not just thank God with our lips, but praise and thank God from a deep awareness of what Christ has done for us. Church, let us get up and go on our way, because our faith has made us well. Amen. Amen. Now let us continue in worship.